Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of 180 and 180. Thanks for all the feedback and questions that I got from last week's episode. And I actually thought I might take some of those questions and try and see what we might learn from that over these next couple of weeks moving on. And I wanted to begin actually with the big question raised by others and honestly for myself out of last week's idea that we're supposed to love our enemies. If we're going to be people that are still going to have enemies, if that's just the reality of who we are, but then our challenge, our calling is to love them, well, how do we do that? How are we supposed to love our enemies? And I was thinking about that this week, and I actually thought, you know what, there's another question we really need to look at first that might help us answer that. And that question is, well, what if our enemy is ourself? See, here's the thing. Jesus gets asked this question in his ministry. They ask him, Teacher, what are the most important commandments that we're supposed to follow? And so, to paraphrase, he responds, well, it's love God and then love your neighbor as you love yourself. And we in the church, we spend a lot of time on those first two, and there's good reason for that. But I just think more and more that maybe it's that last one that is actually the hardest to do, to love ourselves. I've been in youth ministry for the better part of 20 to 25 years, and so I've just had a great time getting to know some amazing kids and young people in that time. And the reality is, I have seen that play out all the time. There are so many people who have a hard time believing that they are lovable, that they can love themselves. And the truth is, the older that I get, the more I realize it's not just kids and young adults, but that's true for all of us. That those feelings don't really go away. I guess it makes sense. We know ourselves better than anyone else. We know our flaws and we know our mistakes. We know those things that we have hidden in the dark corners and crevices of our life. But just because of all that, does that mean that we're so unlovable? I mean, how do we combat that? If we see ourselves as the enemy, then how can we possibly love others? Well, I'm not sure necessarily how we break out of that cycle. I don't think it's as simple as just being able to stare into a mirror and say, oh, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Instead of that, maybe we need to stare into a book and read about how the creator of the universe sees us. That the creator of the universe sends Jesus into a world to tell us that you are lovable, that you are worthy, that there is nothing you can do, nothing, not ever, that you have ever done nor will ever do that makes you unlovable in God's eyes. That's a message that I think we all need to hear and understand. And if God can love us, and God really does love us, well, then maybe we aren't our own worst enemy after all. I think maybe this week, that's where we need to begin. We need to see ourselves as lovable people, and that to try and just in a small way, see us the way that God sees us first and foremost. And then from there, well, we're going to be able to turn that love out to the enemies around us. It's a good challenge for us this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.